The first light of dawn spills like blood over the land, casting long shadows that creep across the earth. The mist hangs low, a veil of moisture that clings to the soil, turning the air heavy with the scent of damp earth and old leaves. The plowman rises from his simple cot, his bones aching with the weight of 1,000 toils. The fire is dying in the hearth, its warm glow now just a memory. He stirs the embers with a rusted poker, the sound of the metal scraping against the stones, piercing the silence of the morning. A crow calls out from a distant tree, its voice hollow like the echo of some long-forgotten fate. He grabs his rough cloak, his fingers numb from the cold, and steps out into the world, a world that asks for everything and gives nothing in return. Outside, the world is still, save for the wind, which sweeps across the barren fields like a sigh. His plow, the only tool that defines him, waits. Its wooden handle is smooth beneath his grasp, worn by years of hardship, the grain of the wood familiar like an old friend. His breath rises in clouds of mist, mingling with the earth's cold breath. He looks out at the land before him. The fields stretch endlessly in all directions, the ground cracked and parched from seasons of neglect. The promise of a harvest is nothing more than a dream here. But still, the plowman labors, tethered to the earth by forces older than he could ever comprehend. His eyes trace the line where earth meets sky, where the heavens seem to spill into the soil itself. It is a strange place, this world of men and soil, where life and death blur together beneath the plow's blade. The land does not yield willingly, no matter how hard he pushes, no matter how much he sweats, no matter how much he sacrifices. The plow digs deep into the earth, the sharp metal scraping against the hardened surface. The sound is brutal, a reminder of the harshness of his labor, the brutality of life itself. The weight of the work settles onto him, pulling him lower into the earth with each turn of the wheel. The world presses down on his shoulders like the weight of 1,000 stones, and he is just one more man lost beneath the endless expanse of land. He feels the land's anger in the tightness of his chest, in the ache of his muscles. But it is a quiet anger, one that speaks in whispers. It is the anger of a forgotten world, one where names are lost and faces fade with time. A distant bell rings in the village, a faint, hollow sound that barely reaches his ears. He knows that it marks the beginning of a new day for others, those who dwell in the warmth of their homes, those who sit at tables laden with bread and meat. He is not one of them. He is a creature of the earth, bound to it by the invisible chains of duty and necessity. The bell tolls again, and for a moment he is still. His hand grips the plow tighter, the wood splintering beneath his calloused fingers. He knows his place. The wind shifts, bringing with it the scent of damp grass and the promise of rain. It will come soon, he knows. The fields will flood, the earth will soften, and yet there will be no bounty. His sweat mingles with the dirt, his blood, too, has long soaked into the soil. There is no place for the plowman's body in this world, only his labor. And the land, it takes. As the plow digs deeper, a distant shape catches his eye. A figure, moving slowly across the field. It is another laborer, another soul like his, toiling under the same sky. The man's face is hidden beneath a hood, but his gait is familiar. The plowman wonders if this is the last man, the one who will replace him when his body can no longer carry the weight of the earth. Or perhaps, he wonders, this figure is merely a reflection of himself, a shadow of what he once was, now stripped of youth, of hope. The earth is cold beneath his boots, the mud thick and heavy, clinging to him as though reluctant to let go. With each step he feels the land pulling him deeper, dragging him down, until his feet feel as though they may be swallowed whole. The earth is an unforgiving master, but it is his only master, and he is bound to it as surely as the sun rises and sets. He lifts the plow again, each movement slow and deliberate, as though the act of digging into the earth is a sacred ritual. The wind picks up, a sudden gust that sends the plowman's cloak billowing behind him like a dark banner. For a moment, he is lost in the rhythm of his labor, his mind slipping into the quiet space between thought and action. It is here, in this moment, that the weight of the world falls away, leaving only the sound of his breath, the creak of the plow, the thud of the earth beneath his feet. He feels the land in his bones, feels the pulse of life beneath the soil, a heartbeat that is ancient and unyielding. And then, just as quickly, it fades. The wind dies down, the earth stills, and the plowman is left standing alone. His muscles ache. His body cries out for rest. He is no closer to the harvest than he was when the sun first rose. The promise of the land is empty, just as it always has been. Yet he cannot stop. There is no choice but to keep moving, to keep digging, as the generations before him have done. He is a link in an endless chain, one that stretches back through time, through the dust of forgotten names and broken dreams. And yet, even as he continues, there is a moment of peace, a fleeting peace, that settles in the silence between the plowman and the land. For a brief moment, he is no longer a servant to the earth, but a part of it, connected by the labor of his hands. In the stillness, he knows that this is the burden of life, to give without expectation, to work without reward. It is a heavy truth, but it is the truth of the world. As the day draws to a close, the plowman's figure becomes a shadow on the horizon, the outline of a man lost beneath the weight of the earth. The wind rises again, carrying with it the smell of rain. He does not look back. There is no need. His work is endless. He moves forward, step by slow step, as the land stretches out before him, a place where men are born and forgotten, and the earth endures. And so he continues. The bell rings again from the village, but this time it is not a call to a new day. It is a call to the dusk, a reminder that the land does not rest, even when the laborer does. The fire crackles softly in the hearth, casting flickering shadows upon the walls of a humble cottage. Its warmth, though a welcome relief, is faint against the cold bite of the night creeping in through the cracks in the stone. The smell of wood smoke lingers, heavy and earthy, as the plowman sits before the embers, his face cast in the orange glow. He holds a simple mug of ale, its surface damp with condensation, but it offers little comfort. His calloused fingers grip the mug tightly, as if the warmth of the liquid might somehow numb the ache in his bones. The ache that has come from years of toil beneath the same sun, beneath the same indifferent sky. Beside him, his wife stirs a pot of stew, the rhythmic clink of the wooden spoon the only other sound in the room. Her eyes do not meet his. They never do, not in these moments. Her hands, like his, are rough from work, her face worn with the weight of endless days. The room is silent except for the crackle of the fire, the soft murmur of the stew. There is no need for words. The silence between them is thick, a silence that speaks of years spent together in shared labor, shared loss, and shared resignation. There is an understanding between them, a bond that has been forged not in love, but in the necessity of survival. Their world is simple, defined by the rhythms of the land and the demands of the Lord. He is bound to the earth, and so is she, bound to him in a way that is unspoken but undeniable. The land does not care for them, and neither do the men in the village who rule over them. Yet, in the stillness of their home, there is a quiet power to their bond, a strength born of shared struggle. The plowman cannot explain it, this unbreakable tether between them, but he feels it every time he catches her eye, every time their hands brush as they pass one another in the narrow space of their cottage. They do not speak of love. There is no time for such luxuries. But they understand what it is to survive together, to endure together. The scent of the stew fills the air, a fleeting reminder of warmth and sustenance. He watches her move, the way her hands shift the pot, stirring with a tenderness that seems at odds with the harshness of their lives. Her movements are fluid, graceful, like a dancer in a play that no one will ever see. She does not complain. She does not ask for more than what the land provides, just as he does not. They have both learned the art of silence, the art of enduring without hope, without expectation. The plowman lowers his gaze to the mug in his hands, the dark liquid swirling in the dim light. He thinks of the land, of the fields waiting for him in the morning, of the weight of his plow digging into the earth. It is the same task, the same struggle, day after day. And yet, there is something in the quiet of the night, something in the warmth of the fire that makes him wonder. Is this all there is? Are they meant to live like this, bound to the land, to one another, until they are nothing more than bones in the earth, their names forgotten? The thought passes quickly. He pushes it away, just as he pushes away the hunger, the fatigue, the ache in his chest. He knows the truth. There is no choice but to keep going. The plow must be drawn, the field must be worked. The land demands it, and so does the Lord. The fire crackles, the air in the room thick with unspoken words. He looks over at his wife, her face illuminated by the firelight. In that moment, he sees her not just as the woman who shares his bed, but as the other half of the silent bond they have forged, as the one who carries the same burden as he does, even if she will never speak of it. The quiet stretches between them like the land itself, vast and endless. It is the silence of survival, of a life lived in the shadow of the earth's demands. And yet, in the midst of this silence, there is a soft but undeniable connection. A bond that does not need to be spoken, does not need to be understood. It simply is. The plowman stands, his body stiff with the ache of the day's labor. He sets the mug down and moves toward the door, the heavy wooden frame creaking as he opens it. The cold air rushes in, sharp and biting, but it feels good against his skin. It is the cold of the earth, the cold of the land he is bound to. He steps outside, and the wind greets him like an old acquaintance, pulling at his cloak, tugging at his soul. The land stretches before him, the fields dark and empty, waiting for the dawn to come. He pauses for a moment, looking up at the sky. The stars are distant, cold, but beautiful. They twinkle like distant promises, like hopes long abandoned. The plowman wonders if his ancestors, those who have worked this land before him, looked up at the same stars. Did they too wonder about the silence between them and the world? Did they feel the weight of their labor, the quiet burden of their existence? His thoughts are interrupted by a rustling sound behind him. His wife has followed him out into the night, standing silently in the doorway, her face pale in the moonlight. For a moment, they stand there together, not speaking, just feeling the weight of the night pressing down on them. The wind howls through the trees, the sound like a distant cry, a reminder of the world beyond the fields, beyond the village, beyond the lives they have built. But there is no escape. There is only the land. And tomorrow, as the sun rises, they will wake again to their silent bond, he to the plow and she to the hearth. It is a bond that will carry them through the years, through the days of endless labor, through the silence that surrounds them. It is a bond that neither time nor death can break, as long as they are bound to the land. The wind shifts, the stars blink overhead, and the plowman turns, his footsteps heavy in the night. He knows there is no other path for him, no other way forward. The plow will call to him in the morning, and he will answer, just as he always has. And in the silence of the fields, in the quiet labor of the day, he will continue to endure, bound to the land and to her. And somewhere deep within the soil, their names will fade away, swallowed by the earth, as they have always been. The plowman stands, alone on the edge of the field, the early morning mist swirling around his feet, like the ghosts of those who have come before him. His breath forms clouds in the biting air, vanishing almost as quickly as the remnants of his dreams. The earth beneath him is cracked, desolate, its skin torn open by seasons of harsh labor. His hands, worn and blistered, grip the handle of his plow with a familiar tension. But there is no comfort in it. Only the knowledge that today, as every day, he will push this iron blade into the cold, unforgiving earth. He will carve furrows, his back will ache, and the soil will remain barren. The sun is a pale ghost in the sky, its light weak, as if even the heavens themselves know that this land is cursed. No crop has grown here for years. The seeds lie dormant, swallowed by the land's fury. Yet, the plowman still moves forward, methodical, with no other path to follow. He looks around, his gaze sweeping across the fields, stretching endlessly before him, barren and empty, a reflection of his own soul. The silent earth offers no answers, no comfort, just the bitter reminder of what he has lost. The wind stirs the dead grass at his feet, the brittle sound like the dry whisper of old bones. His mind drifts for a moment, as it always does when the work grows too heavy. He thinks of his father, whose hands had once gripped the same plow. He can almost hear his voice, steady and calm, urging him to press on, to fight against the inevitable. But his father is gone now, buried beneath the soil that never yielded, and the plowman wonders, was this always the fate of men like him? Bound to the earth, slaves to the seasons, toiling for the gods who seem to forget them? The memories are like cracks in the earth, deep and painful. He remembers his father's stories, the tales of land once fertile, of summers where the crops grew tall and strong. The earth was generous then, but that was long ago. Now the fields lie still, untouched by life, The land is a hollow vessel, and no matter how deep he digs, he cannot fill it. A sudden gust of wind stirs the air, ruffling his cloak. He pulls it tighter around his shoulders, but it does little to protect him from the cold. The plowman hesitates, his breath catching in his throat. There is something eerie in the stillness of the morning, something heavier than the usual silence of the fields. A sound, faint but unmistakable, reaches his ears. It is the sound of footsteps, slow and deliberate, drawing closer through the damp earth. His heart quickens, and his gaze lifts. A figure approaches, moving through the fog like a shadow. The man's face is obscured beneath the hood of his cloak, but the plowman knows him. He knows the gait, the steady rhythm of his steps, the way his shoulders are hunched against the weight of the world. It is another soul, another laborer bound to this earth. He is not the only one who carries the burden. And yet this man, this figure, he does not speak. He does not pause. He simply moves, passing by without a word, his presence a reminder of the many who have walked these fields, who have toiled under the same sky, only to fade into obscurity. For a long moment, the plowman watches him walk, his shadow stretching out behind him like a fading dream. Then, as if it were all a fleeting illusion, the figure vanishes into the fog, leaving only the sound of the wind in its wake. The plowman is alone again, standing at the edge of the field, with nothing but the earth beneath him and the weight of the years pressing down upon his shoulders. He exhales slowly, feeling the cold sting of the air in his lungs, the sharp reminder of his own existence. His hand grips the plow once more, and he steps forward, the metal biting into the soil. The land resists, as it always does, but he presses on. Each step is a small defiance against the weight of his ancestors, the men who labored before him, who failed before him. And in that moment, the plowman feels the full weight of the circle. The unbroken chain of labor, of sacrifice, of silent suffering. It is a bond that cannot be severed, a thread that stretches back through time and stretches forward into the future, binding each soul to the land, each laborer to the earth. It is a broken circle, yes, but it is a circle nonetheless, one that he cannot escape, one that no man can. The plow digs deeper, and the earth gives up its resistance for just a moment. The plowman looks down, watching the soil part beneath the blade, and for a brief, fleeting instant, he feels as though he has won. He has broken through. But it is only an illusion. The land will close again, as it always does. The earth will consume him, as it has consumed so many before him. And in the end, there will be nothing but this: the plowman, the earth, and the endless struggle for a harvest that will never come. As the sun climbs higher in the sky, the plowman's thoughts return to the village, to the life that exists beyond the fields. He wonders, as he always does, whether the villagers feel the weight of the land as he does. Do they hear the whispers of the past? Do they understand the sacrifices made by those who came before them? Or do they simply live their lives, content in their warmth and their comfort, oblivious to the cost of their existence? He knows the answer, of course. They do not know. They cannot know. The plowman is a shadow, a whisper in the wind, and when his time is done, he will be forgotten. Just like his father, and his father's father before him. They will all fade into the soil, swallowed by the earth, their names lost in the passage of time. And yet there is something in the act of working, in the act of giving everything to the land, that gives him a sense of purpose. Even if the harvest never comes, even if his name is forgotten, he will continue. The earth will claim him in the end, but he will leave his mark. A furrow in the soil, a memory, a moment of resistance. As the plowman works, the wind begins to pick up again, the sound of it growing louder, like the cries of a storm on the horizon. He pauses, glancing over his shoulder. The figure he saw earlier is gone, but the air is still thick with the sense of something unfinished, something lost. The land will never be kind to him. It never has been, and it never will be. But still, he moves forward, one step at a time, knowing that the broken circle will never be mended. The wind howls louder, and the plowman tightens his grip on the handle. He knows the storm is coming, but he will face it just as he faces the earth, one furrow at a time. The heat from the forge clings to the air, heavy and oppressive. It is the heat of creation and destruction, of steel born from fire, of sweat pouring from the brow of a man who has spent his life shaping the very tools that define his existence. The rhythmic sound of hammer striking anvil reverberates in the stillness of the morning, a stark contrast to the silence that stretches over the land beyond. His hands are steady, scarred from years of labor, the muscles in his arms rippling with each strike. Yet there is no joy in the work, only the knowledge that without this, the village would fall apart, the world would crumble. The blacksmith's face is hidden in shadow, his brow furrowed in concentration. Sparks fly from the anvil, swirling into the air like fleeting stars, only to die as quickly as they are born. The forge is alive with its own heat, but here, in the heart of this small, forgotten village, there is nothing but silence and the relentless clang of iron. The blacksmith's mind drifts, as it always does when the work grows too heavy. He thinks of the plowmen, of the men who till the soil day after day, of the invisible labor that sustains the world. It is a life of sacrifice, of duty, a life that, like the blade in his hands, is slowly being shaped, molded into something unrecognizable. The anvil rings once more as he drives the iron home. The sound is deafening in the quiet of the smithy. The blacksmith pauses, wiping his brow with the back of his hand, and looks down at the blade in front of him. It is nearly complete, but something about it feels wrong. The shape, the balance, everything feels off. His mind reels, lost in a flood of memories, of the countless hours spent shaping metal, of the men and women who depend on his skill, who rely on him to create the very tools that keep the world turning. But it is not just the tools. The village depends on him in ways that are unspoken, unseen. The blacksmith is not just a craftsman. He is a keeper of secrets, a bearer of burdens too heavy for others to carry. His hands are stained with the blood of the earth, of the men who wield the tools he makes. The price of this life is steep, and it is one he has paid over and over again. Yet still, he does not falter. There is no other choice but to continue. The fire crackles in the hearth, the air thick with the smell of burning coal and sweat. The forge consumes everything, and the blacksmith, like the metal he bends, is slowly being reshaped in its heat. Outside the smithy, the village hums with its own rhythms, the murmur of voices, the rustle of leaves in the wind, the distant sound of the plowman's steady work. The blacksmith's work is hidden from the world. It is done in the shadows, beneath the weight of the forge's fire, and yet it is what sustains the village. His craft is a quiet power, one that cannot be seen, but can be felt in every swing of the plow, in every turn of the wheel, in every step taken upon the earth. The hammer falls once more, and the blacksmith is drawn back into his work. His heart beats in time with the rhythm of the forge, steady and unyielding. He knows that his hands are the hands of the earth, shaping the very tools that will shape the land. But in the silence that fills the gaps between each strike, he cannot help but wonder, what will become of him when the forge is cold? When his hands are no longer steady, when the fires of creation no longer burn in his chest? He looks at the blade in front of him, its shape taking form, and wonders if this is all there is, if this is all he was meant to be. A man bound to the heat of the forge, to the demands of the village, to the unspoken duty that keeps him working. As the day stretches on, the sun begins its slow descent toward the horizon. The light shifts, casting long shadows across the smithy. The blacksmith stands, his back aching from hours of labor, and wipes his brow once more. The blade is finished now, its surface gleaming in the fading light. It is a thing of beauty, a thing of power, but it is also a thing of burden. He can feel it in his hands, the weight of it, the knowledge that it will soon leave his grasp, pass into the hands of someone else. The world will move on, and the blacksmith will remain here, shaping another tool, forging another life. The hammer rests in his hand, the weight of it familiar, yet somehow heavier than before. The forge crackles, the heat still pressing against his skin, but it is not the heat of creation anymore. It is the heat of sacrifice, of a life lived in service to the land, to the people, to the unspoken needs of the world that never stops turning. The blacksmith's thoughts are interrupted by the sound of footsteps outside the smithy door. They are slow, deliberate steps, the kind that belong to a man who knows the weight of his own labor. He turns, his gaze falling on the plowman, who stands in the doorway, his face etched with the same weariness that marks the blacksmith's own. They do not speak. There are no words between them, only the understanding that exists in the silence, the shared burden of duty that binds them together. The plowman nods, a simple gesture, and the blacksmith knows what it means. Another tool, another blade, another day of work. The plowman's labor is as silent as his own, and yet it is just as vital. It is the labor of survival, the labor of endurance, and the cost of it is hidden in the seams of their bones, in the weariness of their souls. The blacksmith watches as the plowman turns and walks away, his figure disappearing into the twilight. There is no fanfare, no glory in the work that they do. But the blacksmith knows the truth. Their lives are intertwined, bound together by the quiet rhythm of labor and sacrifice. And in the end, that is all that matters. The forge cools, the blade rests, and the blacksmith stands alone in the fading light, his hands still stained with the earth, his heart heavy with the weight of duty. And yet, there is a strange peace in it, a peace that comes from knowing that, no matter how heavy the burden, no matter how deep the sacrifice, the work will continue. The plow will be wielded, the fire will burn, and the world will keep turning. It is a quiet legacy, a forgotten legacy, but it is a legacy nonetheless. And for now, that is enough. As the last embers of the fire fade, the blacksmith steps back into the shadows, his hands once again empty. Tomorrow, the forge will call him back. Tomorrow, the plow will call the plowman back. And tomorrow, the cycle will begin again. The wind howls across the open fields, a low, mournful sound that cuts through the stillness of the dawn. The plowman pauses, his hand resting on the worn handle of his plow, and listens. The earth beneath his boots groans in the cold, as if it too feels the weight of time pressing down. In the distance, the village lies in a haze of fog, its outlines blurred and indistinct, as though even the land itself wishes to forget what it has seen. But the plowman knows better. The land does not forget. It holds all things, those who worked it, those who fought over it, those who died beneath it. He breathes in deeply, the air cold and sharp with the scent of damp earth. The sun is still hidden behind a veil of clouds, its light faint, as if it too is weary of rising to greet the same fields, the same toil. The plowman shifts his weight, his bones aching from the endless rhythm of his labor. The quiet is thick around him, the silence a burden he carries as much as the weight of the plow. It is the silence of a life lived in obscurity, a life that has been forgotten by all but the earth itself. His thoughts drift as they always do, back to his father and his father's father before him. They were men of the soil, born to it, shaped by it, swallowed by it. He feels them in the soil beneath his feet, their presence lingering like the rustle of a long-forgotten prayer. Each furrow he carves is a memory, a trace of their lives, their hands, their struggles. Yet no one speaks of them. No one remembers them. The plowman is a link in a chain, bound to the earth, to the work, but he is invisible, his name slipping through the cracks of time, lost to history. The sound of his breath, steady and deep, is the only thing that fills the space between him and the land. His hands are raw from the grip of the plow, his back sore from the bending, the lifting, the endless labor. And yet, there is something else, something unspoken, pulling at him, something that makes him wonder. If he were to stop now, to lay down the plow, would the earth even notice? Would the land that has given him nothing, that has asked everything from him, mourn his absence? Or would it simply go on, indifferent to the fate of the man who tilled it? The wind shifts, a sharp gust that bites through his cloak, and he shivers, though the chill has little to do with the temperature. It is the kind of cold that comes from deep within, something ancient and unyielding, a reminder that no matter how hard he works, no matter how much he gives, he is still just a fleeting moment in the earth's long memory. The thought gnaws at him, like a slow ache in his chest. And yet there is something about the land that calls to him. It is not kindness or compassion. It is a deep, insistent call, as if the earth itself is trying to reach into his soul, to claim him, to hold him in the same way it has held all those who came before him. He grits his teeth, tightening his grip on the plow, and continues the work. The earth resists, as it always does. It pulls at the blade, drags it down, forces him to work harder, to push further. The land is not kind. The land does not care for him, but it is his master, and he has no choice but to obey. Each turn of the plow, each step forward, feels like an offering. He is not working for a harvest. He is not working for himself. He is working for the soil, for the land that will one day claim him, just as it has claimed all those who came before him. His mind wanders again, back to the past, to those who have walked this same earth. He can almost hear them, the whispers of their voices in the wind, the faint echo of their lives. But they are gone now. The plowman's father, his grandfather. These men, their faces long forgotten, their names erased by time. They are lost to the earth, just as he will be. He wonders if they knew the same thing, felt the same weight of invisibility. Did they feel the land pull at them too, like an endless tide that could never be escaped? The wind grows stronger, and the plowman pauses once more, his hand gripping the plow, his heart heavy. The earth beneath him shifts, as though acknowledging his thoughts, his silent reverence. He looks down at the soil, the rough brown surface, cracked and dry, and wonders what secrets it holds. The earth is not just dirt, it is memory. It is the blood of those who worked it, the bones of those who died beneath it. The plowman feels it deep inside him, this unbroken connection between the land and the men who have toiled upon it. The land remembers them all. As he bends to continue his work, a figure appears at the edge of the field. It is a shape moving through the fog, a figure cloaked against the cold, moving slowly toward him. He knows this figure. He has seen this man before, though never close enough to speak. The plowman watches him approach, his footsteps soft on the earth, his presence an echo of something long past. When the man reaches him, he stops, standing beside the plowman without a word. There is no need for words. They share the same silence, the same burden. The plowman looks at the stranger, his eyes meeting those of a man who is bound to the same invisible labor, the same forgotten work. Their eyes meet for a moment. Silent understanding passes between them, but neither speaks. And then, without a sound, the man turns and disappears back into the mist, swallowed by the earth, just as the plowman knows he will be. The plowman stands for a moment, watching him go, feeling the absence of the man as if he were already lost. He turns back to the field, his hands still gripping the plow. His thoughts are lost in the fog, the wind, the endless rhythm of the land. The earth will claim him, just as it claimed all those before him. And in time, his name will fade, his memory swallowed by the soil. But for now, he moves forward. The earth calls him back, and he answers. The first light of dawn finally breaks through the mist, weak and pale, casting the field in a ghostly glow. The plowman continues to work, each furrow a line in the memory of the land. And as the day begins, the silence of the earth settles around him, and he knows he is nothing more than a fleeting shadow in a world that will go on long after he is gone. And as the fog begins to lift, the plowman wonders, what is it that survives? The land or the man? The low hum of the wind begins to stir the fields as the plowman's hand rests upon the worn handle of his plow. His fingers are raw from years of work, stained with the earth's secrets, the blood of the land itself. He gazes out across the expanse of dirt and grass, where the earth seems to stretch forever, both an unyielding enemy and an ancient companion. There is a stillness in the morning air, an aching quiet that surrounds him. Even the birds, usually so eager to greet the dawn, are silent, as though they too sense the weight of the land's demands. The sun has just begun to climb the horizon, its pale light casting long, soft shadows across the earth. A cold mist clings to the ground, the dampness seeping into his boots, into his skin. Yet the plowman feels nothing but the familiar weight of his labor. Every morning, it is the same, the quiet struggle of breaking the earth, the daily rhythm of planting seeds in soil that yields little, if anything at all. Each time the plow sinks into the soil, the plowman wonders if he's wasting his effort. But there is no other way, no other choice. As he begins his work, the ground resists, pulling against the blade as if trying to reclaim itself. Each turn of the wheel is a silent battle, each furrow carved into the earth a momentary victory. The plowman's face is set in grim determination, his eyes focused on the soil before him. His hands move with the practiced motions of someone who has known no other life. But beneath his steady exterior, a storm is raging inside him, a quiet, relentless force. The truth is, the land has never been kind to him. The harvests have always been poor, and yet he cannot stop. For what is a man without his labor, without the earth beneath his feet? A bird calls out in the distance, its lonely cry breaking the silence. The plowman pauses for a moment, his grip tightening on the plow as his gaze follows the sound. The bird is small, fleeting, its wings carrying it far beyond his reach. It is free, in a way he can never be. It soars high, above the land, above the toil of men like him, but even the bird cannot escape the changing winds, the turning seasons. His thoughts drift, as they often do, back to his ancestors. His father, his grandfather, all those who walked this same path, toiled under the same sun, and labored for the same ungrateful land. He wonders if they ever felt this same hopelessness, the same weight pressing down on their shoulders. Did they too wonder if their efforts would ever be enough? If their names would be forgotten, lost to the earth, just as their bodies would be, one day? The plowman digs the blade into the soil again, the earth resisting with all its might, as though it were alive, as though it could sense the burden he carries. He presses forward, the rhythm of his movements steady, though his body aches from years of such labor. He is bound to this place, bound to the earth, bound to the land he has worked since his youth. There is no escape. He cannot stop now. The wind picks up, swirling around him in soft gusts that carry with them the scent of the distant forest, of wet leaves and damp earth. The chill bites at his skin, but he does not pause. His face is hard, set in a mask of determination. Yet, as his plow breaks through the soil, a thought creeps into his mind, a thought he cannot shake. What if this is all there is? A life of endless toil, of labor that is never truly rewarded, of a body slowly breaking under the strain of work that seems to yield nothing. For a fleeting moment, the plowman's mind drifts again, back to the village. The faces of those who live in the shadow of the fields, the people who pass through the market with their baskets, who sit by the fireside at night, their bellies full. They are oblivious to the work that keeps them alive. The plowman wonders if they ever think about the laborers like him, the ones whose sweat feeds the soil, whose strength feeds the world. They never see the toil behind the food on their plates. They never see the weight of the earth that presses down on men like him, the invisible cost of every meal, every loaf of bread. His plow catches in the soil again, the ground harder than before, as if even the earth resents him now. He pulls the plow free, his muscles straining with the effort. But there is no satisfaction in it, no sense of accomplishment, just a feeling of futility. The harvest has never been kind. The soil has never yielded enough to fill the village's stores. It is always the same, a life of unending work, a never-ending cycle of sowing and reaping, with little to show for it but empty hands and aching bones. Yet still, the plowman continues. He has no other choice. The village depends on him. The earth depends on him. And somewhere deep within him, beneath the weariness and the doubt, there is a flicker of hope. It is faint, like the weak light of the rising sun, but it is there. It is the hope that one day the earth will yield. One day the harvest will come. And maybe, just maybe, the work will have been worth it. But that day is not today. And so the plowman keeps moving, step by slow step, carving furrow after furrow into the unyielding earth. As the sun rises higher, the mist begins to fade and the world comes into sharper focus. The village is still distant, a collection of rooftops and smoke rising from chimneys. The plowman knows it is time to return. He turns his back on the field, the work for today done, but not finished. He walks toward the village, his steps slow and deliberate, his thoughts heavy with the weight of the day's toil. The earth beneath his feet is soft now, the warmth of the sun starting to seep into the soil. And though he is weary, though his body aches, he knows that tomorrow the plow will call to him again. Tomorrow the earth will call to him. The plowman takes one last look at the field, the place where he has spent his life. The harvest may never come, but the work will continue. It always does. And as the plowman fades into the distance, the land stretches before him, endless and unyielding, a reminder of the labor that sustains it and the men who are lost to it. What is the cost of this silent labor? What is the price paid for survival in a world that never stops turning? And in the end, when the plowman's hands are no longer strong enough to grasp the handle, what will be left behind but the earth, holding the memories of the forgotten?